Nigeria, for a very lovely morning to you. Welcome to From the Front Pages. This is where we take a look at headlines, big stories that have made it through to the front pages of the papers this morning. It's December 27, complimentary season to you. I am Sheriff Quadry. On the program this morning, I've got The Nation on the table. The Vanguard is here, the Punch newspaper, This Day newspaper, the New Telegraph, the Daily Sun newspaper, Daily Trust is also here, the Daily Independent, and our partner, the Guardian newspaper. Rotimi Sankore joins me on the program this morning. Rotimi, good morning to you.
Morning.
Let's begin with the banner headline on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, where CBN aired on new bank charges by telcos. Riders USSD services cannot be offered for free to banks. Minister, NECA, others, Lord charges slash. That's on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Let's look at that story. Days after the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, reduced bank charges, telecommunications operators still feel issues negatively affecting them have not been sufficiently addressed. The operators wondered why the CBN did not review the unstructured supplementary service data, that's USSD charges, which had in October pitted them against the banks. In October, the USSD charges became a national issue when the body of banks' chief executives denied authorizing telecom operators to charge additional fees in carrying out such operations. Well, the telcos are now explaining their own part of the whole agreement. If Central Bank is issuing out new guidelines, the telcos are saying, you have not addressed our own issues.
Well, often you can tell when a big policy issue that affects tens of millions of people has not gone through a proper process of consultation, and people are trying to either lie against each other
Right.
as to who is benefiting or who is slipping in charges that were not agreed. This matter is not going to go anywhere. I'm sure that when all their bosses are back from the holiday
Right.
in New Year, and would have spent all their money on holidays, yes, in nice Caribbean islands and all the places they normally go, they will review the charges again and say, look, where can we quickly raise 500 million
We need
naira?
money. We need money.
Where can we quickly raise 500 million naira so that everything can balance again? And then they will look at these charges, and then the struggle will commence. So I'm sure we'll hear a lot of this in January and February.
Absolutely. Let's stay with the Guardian newspaper. Can groups condemn withdrawal of OPWS troops from Benue, others? That's on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Related headlines this, from the front page of The Nation. Sultan tackles Khan on persecution of Christians. We stand by our position. Who is talking? That's coming from The Nation newspaper. Moving on to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Sultan, Khan, tangle over religious persecution. That's from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Moving forward now to our next paper on the program this morning. As a matter of fact, that headline can be found on most of the papers this morning. But Rotimi, there is this discussion between Sultan and Khan as regards religious persecution. Sultan yesterday was saying that Muslims should be careful if anyone tries to provoke them or try to say something bad about their religion. And Khan is saying, don't say that kind of thing. Nobody is promoting persecution, or we are the ones that are being persecuted in this country. How sensitive is religion in Nigeria, and what role would you say Khan and Sultan, or religious leaders, so to speak, should play?
Well, religion is always sensitive in underdeveloped countries. The more underdeveloped the country,
The more
the
sensitive.
more sensitive religion. You pray for water,
You pray for everything.
you pray for food, you pray for there not to be traffic, and then you top it all by praying against your enemies, real and imagined. So, so yes, I mean it's always a sensitive because nobody understands how anything works. or why things are not working. Hence the
He just resorted to praying.
yes, hence the peculiar refrain, only God can save Nigeria. I mean, if that was the case, I fear we have been abandoned long time ago. You know? But look, more seriously, the Sultan and Khan, you know, they are exchanging blows where, you know, no boxing match has been called for.
Right.
The real persecution in the last year has actually been the persecution of Shia Muslims in the country. They are Muslims, but they are a minority in Nigeria. There are countries in where Shia are the majority,
Right.
and Sunni are the minority. In Nigeria, the Sunni are the majority. You know, so you can see there is this thing that, you know, when they go on procession, you know, it's described as violent, it's described as unacceptable, you know, and this is coming from the Kaduna State government, for instance, you know, which is led by Muslims, you know. So, I mean, Christians are not being persecuted on the scale that the IMN have
Right?
have faced persecution. So I think you know, I think they just latched onto that report
By the U.S.
saying there is persecution in Nigeria and just said yes, it is them. You know, who was referring to them?
Indeed. Indeed. Let's move on to daily independent newspaper very quickly. Senate committee says $30 billion loan request necessary for development. That's on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper. Let's look at that story. Chairman Senate Committee on Finance, Olamilekan Adeola, on Thursday said the plan by the federal government to borrow about $30 billion was a necessary step to catalyze development. Let me quote him. He said, the $30 billion loan the federal government is sourcing for is not one of those frivolous loans. This is a loan that is tied to a project. This loan is needed to fund landmark and ambitious projects such as the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the East-West Road, the Second Niger Bridge, among others. He said we need a large chunk of money to get all these projects completed. So it is only if government, accesses this loan that we can give all these great projects the right direction.
In short, the political elite needs $30 billion for contracts.
In short,
that's the long and short of the matter now.
Look, well, don't we trust President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in ensuring effective implementation of any contractual agreement?
I don't trust any public official in this country that cannot give us details of what they want to borrow the money for.
Right.
You know, $30 billion is a lot of money to commit the country to without any details. I mean,
that's a lot of money.
The details even need to be clearer than the national budget, and the national budget is not clear. I mean, remember the edition of Countdown see me, I've gone back to the beginning. Remember the edition of Public Square. The edition of Public Square where the folks from budget were telling us that when the budget came out and they just look for the frivolities and, you know, all kinds of nonsense that doesn't make sense. One thing, you know, apart from the normal billions allocated for generator, fuel, fumigation, you know, new sets of cutlery and things which you just wonder, come on, this is ridiculous. The one that fascinated me the most was the building of a prison inside a secondary school. And I thought the school is not aware that the prison is there.
Right.
The prison services are not aware of the prison. Nobody is aware, but that money has been allocated. So, and this is a normal annual budget. You know, look,
because nobody is checking. Because nobody is looking in that direction.
That's why we thank these civic organizations that actually check these things. Imagine what they were getting away with before this. Now, the thing is this. You are saying you need $30 billion loan. Meanwhile, the country or the government, to be more specific, sets money on fire
Right.
daily through gas flaring. You know,
And we're burning cash. We're literally burning money.
No, that's like setting cash on fire every day.
And we are busy going out to go and borrow money.
Billions set on
We
fire.
are drowning in debt every day.
Every year. Billions, not naira, dollars set on fire every year like that. You know, and people are wondering why we are at 4,000 megawatts of electricity when, you know, we need 200,000 megawatts. If we harness the gas, maybe we'll make 40,000 megawatts. Why not build the power plant where the gas is? Then distribute the electricity from there. You know, I mean, if you do that, the benefit to the economy will almost be about $30 billion to start with.
Right.
You know, if every child passes JAMB in this country, if every child scores 400, there won't be enough universities. You know, estimated 8 million children born a year in this country. In the 4 years of the Buhari administration, you do the math.
That's a whole number of
yes, now 4
kids
years
that have been born yearly.
8 million times 4.
That's about 32.
Yes. 32 million kids are going to be born in the 4 years of this administration. Are they building the schools?
That is scary.
Are they, building the hospitals? Any vaccination program?
Well, we're borrowing
what
to build.
What are we doing about?
What do you mean we're borrowing to build? We're building.
No, look,
we're building.
The point I'm trying to make is when that guy in the NAS says they want to borrow the money to complete Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, you can tell that's an aimless fellow. Straight away.
Rotimi, but they need to complete Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. They need to complete the East-West Road.
Since when?
Now, it will shock you that especially East-West Road.
What do they mean complete? I applied that road to go to uni in Ibadan.
Right.
That road was complete.
Oh well, if you have you been through that road lately? Have you passed through the road lately?
30 billion to repair.
They've been constructing the roads.
I beg, next story, Jare.
Okay.
Let's go to Kano. That Ganduje, oh man.
Before we go to Kano, I have another national story here. Subsidy hits 47.5, 47 naira 50 kobo per liter, as oil prices rises to $67.08. Landing cost of petrol was 180 naira per liter on December 23, according to PPRA. Dangote Refinery will change subsidy regime, say marketers. Is it time we stopped paying subsidy, Rotimi? I mean, do you think Nigerians right now will subscribe to the idea of the stoppage of subsidy?
Before the president took office, he described the subsidy as some form of criminality. I mean, obviously, he knows what he's talking about. For those that don't know, the current president was the Federal Commissioner for Petroleum.
Right.
When President Obasanjo was General Obasanjo, before they handed over to Shagari
right.
in the late 70s. So, if anybody if any member of the political elite is familiar with the oil industry, it is Buhari. Because, I mean, federal commissioner or minister in a military dictatorship, he didn't have to consult anybody about anything.
Right.
You
actually have an idea of everything going on.
He said was the order. I mean, no NAS, nothing.
Right.
After that, he became military head of state again. And then became president and appointed himself Minister of Petroleum. So if anybody knows what is happening there, he knows. And he has described it, he has said that the subsidy, is in effect, is a scam.
Right.
Okay. So he has continued with it. Why? But
Why do you think he has continued with it? That's my question.
Well,
is it because we are not ready as a people?
I would love to have the president in the studio here.
I mean,
or if they invite me to Aso Rock, I'm happy to turn up with the cameras and the microphones. That's the first question I'm going to ask him. Mr. President, why is your government continuing with the subsidy? Honestly, that's the first question. I mean, there are about 100 questions I'd like to ask him, but that's the very first one. Now, having said that, one of the reasons that they will be afraid to remove it arbitrarily is that, remember when the fuel pump price was about to be improved,
Right.
all kinds of palliatives were promised.
Absolutely.
And people thought, okay, Baba has integrity, no problem. All the other people, we couldn't be sure what they would have done, but at least they've promised that if they, increase this, there will be buses, there will be trains, there will be a whole lot of things. To the best of my knowledge, those things have not happened.
I haven't seen any, to the best of my knowledge.
I mean, it may be happening.
Especially the buses.
It may be happening somewhere in this country that I don't know.
Exactly.
But to the best of my knowledge, it has not happened. Now, that means that there is a trust deficit. Because if people said, and remember the protests that followed the fuel increase in the previous government.
Right.
But people felt, this, new government apparently had more integrity than the previous. So if they promise, surely there is discipline, there is, they are frugal, they are, honestly, after 5 years, I don't think that can be sold to anybody again.
Trillions of naira have gone into
I don't think it can
payments.
be sold to anybody again, because if it is pulled out, the main impact will not even be on motor vehicle. The main impact will be on power. Because as I calculated once and explained, citizens in Nigeria and businesses spent more or less the equivalent of the annual budget buying petrol and diesel for their generators.
Right.
I mean, the area of about 13 trillion naira is spent annually.
By citizens?
Yes.
Alone?
Yes.
Citizens.
So, I mean, you can imagine what will happen if that doubles. First of all, a lot of businesses are going to collapse. I mean, even banks will be looking for where to push that more, because essentially they run 24 hours. There is no serious industry in this country that plugs into the public power when they are running critical operations. Because once the thing blinks and your assembly line shuts down,
it affects the entire output.
Everything resets.
Right.
Everything resets.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, that is where the real issue is going to
be. If we remove the subsidy, will it improve that area? No,
because the whole value chain is not being looked at. The government claims that there are refineries in the country, but the refineries are not. So, in fact, one of the biggest scams the political elite has sold to us is this idea that they have to export crude oil to import petroleum. I mean, I've never seen such a thing in my life. And they've normalized it.
It sounds so stupid.
It's incredible. Look, developed countries, anytime you talk to representatives of developed countries, or you even talk to people in private sector.
How do you even do that to yourself?
No, seriously. Okay, look at Saudi Arabia. They have their Aramco, which is like NNPC.
Right. That's the most profitable company in the world, by the way, right now.
The most private company.
Yes.
Seriously imagine Saudi Arabia, or even Qatar, which, as I always remind people, is the same population as Ali Monshaw local government.
Right.
Seriously imagine those countries exporting crude oil and then re-importing refined. Look, somebody told me once that when they went for OPEC meeting, and Nigeria started talking about, some strategy for, oil prices. The others were just looking at in amusement at what strategy.
What are you talking about?
What strategy? And they were wondering why they were looking at them like that. And during the break, the chair then told him and said, "Are you people insane? Which strategy? You export almost all your crude oil and you import petroleum, and you are coming here and tell us about strategy. You think anybody's going to take you seriously here?"
That is insane.
So, I mean, they haven't sorted that. They won't talk about subsidy. when you sort the key issue, then you can talk about subsidy and palliative.
Right.
I mean, there is no way it is not going to go completely wrong until they sort the fundamentals.
Absolutely. Let's take a few comments on Facebook. Rafael Adekoke says, I don't agree with Mr. Rotimi. Go to the north and see the Christians being killed almost on a daily basis, and their houses are being burnt. Is it because the press is not reporting it? Some of us
State persecution.
have people in those
State
places.
State persecution.
There is a difference between tribal conflicts and tribal all of those things than what they can and.
I'm not saying that individuals are not being mistreated,
right,
harassed, or treated badly. We are talking about state persecution.
Right, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, state persecution. I mean, which Christians have you seen in court, being persecuted by the Nigerian government because they are Christians? It's the IMN that is being persecuted,
right,
both by the Nigerian government and the Kaduna state government. That's what that report was about.
Right. Bolao Akimbami says, Rotimi is spot on that civic organizations like Budget and Serap are scrutinizing the budget. Wake up call for sleeping opposition parties. Thank you. He goes on to say that for all the economic justification for petrol subsidy removal, it is a no-go area given the attendant social upheaval. Okay. Wilson Salvation says, good morning, Quadry and Rotimi. Sir, with due respect, I disagree with you. Your analysis, religious differences is really happening, especially in the northern part. A person will be disqualified to hold some office. I don't get what you're saying.
Again, that's different. Look, this thing that happens in Nigeria. It's not even personal. Look, the so-called quota system and federal character is massively abused.
Right.
Is abused to the point where most Nigerians are not full Nigerians outside what is described as their state of origin. We know that. You can't go and take up a full-time appointment as, for instance, a permanent secretary in another state that is not even, it may even be a state.
A lot.
Yes,
it happens a lot.
It may even be a state where you speak the same language and you're of the same ethnicity, and you are qualified to be permanent secretary, you won't get it. Talk less of a state where it is a different religion.
Right.
And so we understand that, that is discrimination. What that report is talking about is persecution. State-sponsored persecution, where you are dragged to court, you are tried for all kinds of things.
Because
soldiers come and shoot and kill 300-400 people, and they are put in mass graves, and there is no social justice. That's what we are talking about. So discrimination, even on a wide scale, is different from state-sponsored persecution.
Right. And we're not denying that there is discrimination going on. Even schools, students looking for admission, in some schools, they will tell you that because you're not from there.
Like I said, it doesn't even have to be religious.
Yes, it doesn't.
You can be from the same geographical zone, speak the same language. Just make the mistake of having lived in that state for 20 years and then apply for a job you are qualified for, and then see what happens. It's a pity we didn't have time to deal with this Ganduje thing in Kano.
Very quickly.
It is something that everybody needs to condemn very strongly. Look, this is worse. It's on the same level with the Zamfara diversion, religious diversion of Sharia. When in Zamfara,
what were they thinking, Rotimi?
Well, look.
What was he thinking?
People need to understand.
I saw the news yesterday, and I screamed.
There is a scientific. When Sharia was introduced in Zamfara, hunger in Zamfara was 42%. People were stealing food. Instead of addressing the food issue, the governor went for Sharia. Now, Ganduje, who by the way almost lost the election, can see that his policies are going to tank, are not going to, now he has gone for gender diversion. Men and women cannot enter public transport.
Why would he do that?
Something that is going to affect...
Does it even have the right to do that? That's my own focus in all of these arguments.
He doesn't have the right. And it is going to affect poor women especially the most.
We must go, Rotimi. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing time talking headlines from the papers this morning, Rotimi. Thank you for joining. We're back in a moment to continue our retrospects, 2019 in retrospects on the morning Crossfire. This morning, Wemimo will be in the studio then. We're talking transportation and traffic management. Okay. We're back in a moment. I'm Sheriff Quadry. Do join us again.
More talk, news, and sports after this.